Hello, Internet. Welcome to episode number 289 of the Comic Watchers Show. He's Chad, I'm Matt, and this is our show where we talk about comics. How are you this week, Chad?
Getting better.
Good, good.
Been a
This is
busy week.
on Monday. Alex sends his best.
I know. Yep. I'm
We're
sure it
glad
was a.
everything's okay.
I'm sure it was a great conversation. I got to watch it. I actually had to watch the show for once.
Stupendous conversation with Alex Segura on Monday. But this week, we've got, or this episode, I guess, it's the same week. Um, we've got Mad Cave editor and creator Adam Wallenta with us. Adam, how are you tonight?
I'm good. How about you?
Hanging in there.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We're here to talk about all kinds of cool stuff. But you know, we love to start with our guests and their comic journeys, how they got to where they are today, what was an early comic that inspired you to join the medium, and so on and so forth.
That's a lot of questions.
I know, right?
Well,
we got to fill the hour somehow.
yeah.
Sure.
How did the journey begin? It just began with a love for reading and drawing and art in general. I discovered comic books probably around 6 years old, and I think my first comic was a Spider-Man comic. I don't remember the issue number. It had I could remember the cover. It has Spider-Man and I think J. Jonah Jameson they're like handcuffed to each other, and there's like a time bomb or something.
Oh yeah.
Some type of device on them. I think that was my first Spider-Man comic. You could probably search it and find it faster than I can. But yeah, that was fun. From there, like I had just like an interest in learning about these stories. You know, these days I always, for many years now, I've heard a lot of grumbling about like continuity, but for me, that was the interesting part about comics was, you know, there were these little caption boxes that said, if you don't know what's going on, read this issue. So I would hunt down that issue, or like, what was the origin of this character that appeared? So I'd hunt down older books. And to me, part of the fun of reading comics was the treasure hunting, the learning the history of the characters and learning all about them, learning about the continuity. And then I was always an artist, always drew. So comics, you know, are a visual medium. So that appealed to me. And over the years, from very early on, I was writing my own stories. Back when, you know, we used typewriters to type out, you know, stories and then draw them on the typewriting paper. And then, you know, as the years went on, I just kept developing those skills and practicing the craft and reading the books and learning what other writers and artists do. And eventually went to college, went to art school, and got an internship at Marvel Comics. And that really began my journey as a professional. I started out as an intern, and then pretty quickly I graduated to becoming a professional colorist, just by luck, really. Well, one, I was ready for the job because I had been practicing and learning, you know, how to color comics. And then one day, it was a Friday, I was an intern for an editor named Mike Rockwitz, who became a lifelong friend, a brother of mine. And there was a Namor comic that the colorist didn't do the job. And it was a Friday, and it was like a 32-page book, I think. And it was due Monday to go to the printer. And they didn't have a colorist. And I said, I'll do it. And my editor looked at his assistant, Joe Andriani, and said, hey, give it to the kid. And just like that, I got a page rate and became a professional. And my first job was, you know, I had a page rate, but then I got like basically the equivalent of like overtime because I had to do it all over the weekend. So I had to color, you know, an entire book. You know, I went home on a Friday, I delivered it on a Monday. And I had no idea really what I was doing because, you know, you could practice all you want, but until you're actually dive into doing it. And this was back in the day when they used to, this was before computers. I mean, computers existed, but they didn't color with computers quite yet. They would scan down the 11 by 17 art onto 8.5 by 11 copy paper, and you would color on the paper using Doc Martin dyes, which are basically watercolors, and then you'd have to code everything. So because you would send that to the printer and they would do the color separations. But when you code it, if it was yellow, it was just Y100. If it was orange, it was Y50, R50, or M50 for magenta, and so forth and so on. So you had to code every color. That some people did that on an overlay, like if you had tracing paper. Some people did it right on the paper. And if you go to like some of the eBay or Heritage, you could actually see some of these old coloring pages that people kept and they sell now. I was an idiot because I didn't think anything of it. I didn't know that they would be valuable eventually. We just thought they were like throwaway, and I would get them back and toss them. But really, they're little miniature pieces of artwork, original artwork. And I wish I would have kept them so I could show my kids. But yeah, so that's how I became a professional. From there, I got into editing, writing my own books, drawing my own books. I started a publishing company around 97, published a lot of independent projects. And then even up to, later in the company's life, we published the official Public Enemy comic book series that I worked on with Chuck D.
Wow.
I took a lot of time off after that for family life. And then came back when my son was about 5 years old. And we created Punk Taco together. And that has really been the biggest success of my career and my favorite project that I've worked on, getting to team up with my son.
Sure.
And then a couple of years ago, an old friend from Marvel, Mike Martz, who is the editor-in-chief of Mad Cave Studios, called me up. And I was actually teaching art at the time. And he asked if I wanted to come back into comics full-time as an editor. And I started at Paper Cuts. And I work on a variety of creator-owned projects like Hero Bear and Three Thieves, and then licensed properties like Flash Gordon Adventures, and we have a Speed Racer Adventures coming out, and Smurfs, and a lot of other properties. So that that was basically like a 30-year journey in like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So there's a lot of other things that happened along the way. Like I said, family and ups and downs in career, and a lot of freelance work, and but the one consistent thing is just trying to be productive and stay focused on creating. And that's what I've always done. Yeah. I think there was another part of that question, but now that I babbled, I can't remember what it was.
No, you hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah.
So I know that you mentioned Punk Taco, and I know that you created it with your son. And I think the last time you were at New York Comic Con, not this year, with Mad Cave, but when you were tabling in Artist Alley is when I first met you, and was introduced to Punk Taco, and I still have the sticker.
Okay. And it still sticks on that
Yeah,
water bottle. It's a good one.
good quality stickers.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't
um,
use that company anymore because they went a little crazy, but we won't say
Yes.
their name.
Oh, that company.
Yeah, they did good quality, but guy turned out to be a real jerk. So we stopped using them.
Oh dear.
But so take us on the journey of the creation of Punk Taco with your son, because I've met your son, and he's a really nice guy. You guys were at the local library con this summer that I helped
Yeah, that was great.
together, and
That was a fun show. Yeah, the journey began. Excuse me. I was actually working on a new graphic novel. I probably went a little crazy with it. It's about 200 pages. It's penciled. I was in the middle of inking it and coloring it at the same time. And I was hanging out with my son. I was a stay-at-home dad. I freelance at night or whenever I had free time. But we were just hanging out, playing with action figures and Lego and toys and talking. And I had this name, Punk Taco, rattling around in my head. And for some reason, I mentioned it to him, and he thought it was hilarious. I had no idea what it was. I didn't have any drawings or didn't know if it was a comic or the name of a song or a band or, a restaurant, which eventually someone did open up a restaurant called Punk Taco. But we had the trademark first. And then he thought it was great. He started doing drawings and character designs, and he was rattling off ideas about what it could be a comic and who the villain was, King Boogar, and he started coming up with all these crazy characters and the other band members. and I just saw the light in his eyes and the imagination, that going back and forth was exploding. And excuse me, and I it just clicked. I was like, you know what? Like, let's make a comic together. And he was excited about that and wanted to spend time with me. And I figured I was making comics anyways. I might as well, rather than going off and doing it alone, if I could spend time with my son and be creative in that way, it's a better use of my time. So I put the other book on the shelf. I still haven't finished it, some 8 years later, and we're working on the third and fourth volume of what will be Punk Taco Adventures. Now we've rebranded for Paper Cuts, but along the way, I set a deadline for us. Going back to the original book, I had, you only have so much money of your own personal money to invest in your project. So I was like, oh, this is how much I can invest. This is how many pages we can produce. We can do a hardcover book because we're big fans of libraries. And, we would go to the library 2-3 times a week sometimes and get out books. And, he loved hardcover books. I loved hardcover books. They were much more durable. So I knew I wanted it to be a hardcover. I wanted it to be a larger, almost like European size book. And so we kind of I made out a budget. We worked on the story together. He would just rattle off tons of ideas. I would take those ideas and try to format them in a way that made sense, to write a book. Because at this point, he's still 5 years old, maybe turning 6. And so he was just shooting ideas. 11. And from there, I decided I was originally going to pitch it around. But I did that enough, and I knew that the pitching process could be really exhausting. There's always a rejection involved, no matter how great the project is. Someone's going to reject it. That kind of kills the mood sometimes.
Sure.
Especially when you're working with your son. You don't want any negativity. And then even if it got picked up, I knew that it could be a year, 2 years before it ever came to life. And Matt, I don't know if you have kids. Chad, I know you have kids. You have 3? Okay. So they grow up crazy quick. And
very quick.
I wanted to capture.
My oldest is 25.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I can dig it.
Yeah. I wanted to capture that moment in time. I didn't want to wait around for other editors or agents or publishers, giving me notes. And this was just a very special moment for me. And so I just wanted to make the book and get it out there. And so that's what we did. We self-published it. During the process of self-publishing, I was kind of shopping it around at the same time just to see what people would think. And we got a ton of rejection letters. I got rejected by every agent in the business, and just kept pushing forward. We were taking it to conventions. People really seemed to like it. Chad, I forget if I met you in 2018 or 2019 was the last time I did New York Comic Con.
I think it was probably that, because that's about right.
Yeah. And so it was around that same time that my family was going through some job changes. We moved out to California, and then that's the same year we won the Ringo Award for Best Kids Comic. Well, first we got nominated, which was amazing. And we were still living in Connecticut at the time, and then we went out to California, and we flew back to Baltimore for the Ringo Awards and actually won, which was a huge deal for me because there was a lot of rejection in the process of it being published to that point. And and we were a self-published book, which was it's not easy to even get noticed when you're self-published, not because of the quality, but because we don't have the same reach, right? We didn't have distribution. I'll back up. I had been publishing comics for many years, 20 years at this point, and I've always been distributed by Diamond. This was the first book that Diamond rejected.
Wow.
They didn't distribute it. So we printed up 2,000 copies, and then they were like, we're not going to distribute this book. So when I say that, the fact that we even got noticed by the Ringos was amazing because we had very limited reach. We weren't in stores all over the country.
Right.
We were only as far as I can get the book on my own through the internet and going store to store.
I
So that
think
was a
you
great
ran a couple
experience.
Kickstarters, right?
We did Kickstarters to help raise awareness of the book, and raise money for the public to print it. Yeah. So that did help. And I think we were in just at the right time with Kickstarter because I don't think it was flooded yet with comic projects at that point. Um, and it was a time when you can still do a kids book and get raise your money. It's really hard to do kids books on Kickstarter now for some reason.
Hmm.
I'm not quite sure why, but I know books with naked people do a lot better than kids books.
So we're not going to get the Punk Taco not safe for work version.
Right. The
Oh,
alternate
man.
cover of the pinup girl Punk Taco. Maybe then I'd raise a lot more money, but no. So yeah, and actually before the Ringo Award, it was really awesome. We were nominated for a Kids Comics Award, which was part of the Ann Arbor Comic Arts Festival, and we actually won that. That was our first taste of success. Um, and I always, I do a lot of school talks and visits and at libraries as well, and I kind of take them along on this journey, and I kind of end it with, the Kids Comics Award and the Ringo Awards, and I always tell people I never bring that up because to brag. It's because there was so much ups and downs along that journey, right?
Mhm.
At any point, like in my comic career, I could have quit. And then even when McCann and I were doing Punk Taco and the various rejections, I could have thrown in the towel many times, but luckily I didn't, um, because we did have some success and people really liked the book. At least people tell me that. So we're proud of it, and it's been a long journey, and we eventually got out book two, and that took a long time because we were traveling, moving across country back and forth, and then let's see, where are we now? So we actually got nominated for a Ringo for that one, but we lost that one, which was great because was it great? But it did remind you that you're not always guaranteed like these things, and it was a good learning lesson for the kids. So they were a little disappointed, but it was a great experience, and just to be acknowledged, to do this independently and get acknowledged for anything that you do is a great honor. Um,
So how has the creative process changed as your son got older?
well, as you know, they get interested in other things. He he's in high school now. So when we started this, he was in kindergarten, and now he's in high school. And yeah, went by really quick. He is, very focused on his schoolwork. He's involved in sports now. We don't get to just hang out and collaborate on ideas as much anymore, but we try to set aside some time. I try to, get him to come up in the studio with me and draw, and that's when we'll just talk and come up with ideas. Luckily, we had so many ideas from the first book that they're still flowing into the third and fourth book. And then his brother, who is 10 now, he actually came up with like the full story for the fourth book. Like,
Oh,
and
nice.
like that was a couple of years ago now, and I actually recorded the whole thing on my phone, and he was just rattling off everything, and it was really fun and exciting. And I was just taking notes and sketching while I did it, and so I have that laid out. And once I'm finished with book three, then we're gonna get into his story for book four. So his brother kind of like picked up a little bit of the slack and came up with some really good story elements that we're including. And then when we go back, when once the artwork is the main story is done, usually what happens is I'll show them the artwork and then we'll talk about the dialogue, because a lot of times the dialogue will change once we have the visuals, and we'll go back and forth. Should he say this or should he say that? And then McConaughey in the first two books, as you know, he did his own stories. So in the first book, it was really influenced by Elephant and Piggy, the Mo Willems books. So his short story, because that's how he learned, really, like that was his first book that he read on his own, and like came home from school and was like, I can read this book by myself. So that was a big influence on him. And then by the second book, by the time he did his story for that, he was doing, it was more like Dogman and those style of books. So you could see the progression in his art style as well as the story style. So he hasn't even begun to dive into book 3. I don't know where he will be creatively, artistically at that point. But we are
Batman: The
releasing.
Dark Knight.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. As long as it's not like Howard Chaykin or something like that, then it'll be good. You know, books I shouldn't have been reading when I was his age. American Flag and those. But yeah, we have the new Punk Taco Adventures book coming out in January, and that takes the original material from the first book, and we did 2 new stories, and the boys helped me out with those as well. So it's like a whole new book, really, which is pretty cool. Sorry if I babble.
No, that's fine. We always say the more you talk, the less we have to work.
There you go. I always feel like these the computer cameras should be lower because like I'm not like looking up like this. I always look down. I don't know why.
No worries. So so you really kind of turned Punk Taco into a family adventure. Like how many books are you hoping to get out of it? Is there a third kiddo in line?
No, there's no more kiddos in line.
Okay.
No. Although, you know, I don't know if it was like this for the 2 of you, but when I see babies, I'm like, oh, like I just remember my kids being that small and I miss it. Like that. Yep. That time period when you actually knew everything and like you were like Superman to them and they thought you were brilliant.
They didn't have opinions of their own.
Right. They didn't realize you were, you know, a weirdo and didn't know what you were talking about half the time. Yeah. So I joke around. I'm like, yeah, maybe when I'm older, I'll just adopt. But no.
Believe it or not, mom and dad don't know everything.
Yeah.
That is a harsh realization.
Why do you want to adopt? Because I need to write another Punk Taco.
That's right.
Right.
I need more inspiration. No. There, you know, maybe I don't know if the boys will, you know, eventually get into making their own comics or, you know, continue with this in their own lives. Right now for me and for them, you know, we've been having a great experience just spending time together and creating. And so it's just, like I said at the beginning, like capturing a moment in time. We try to do that with each book. So as long as it continues to be fun for us as a family and as long as I'm having fun doing it, I'd like to keep doing it. I have other ideas, other projects that I'm interested in, but I do have limited time between my responsibilities as an editor and my responsibilities as a parent. So if I'm going to work on something, I want it to be something that, you know, I can share with my family that is fun. Like I said, right now we have book 3 and book 4 laid out. If people want to keep reading it and it becomes like a huge success, like, you know, Dogman or, you know, Investigators or any of those other great books, hey, I'll be grateful and happy to keep making silly stories about a space taco. So, you know, that would be a good life. I can't
that
complain
would be a
about
great
that
life.
at all.
Very fulfilling.
Yeah.
But
and I like that it's just not a story, but there's a, you know, a larger, deeper meaning to the story too. You know, that as you're telling it.
Are you asking me if there is, or?
No. Well, I noticed it was that. I'm sure that was, you know, intentional on your guys' part.
Yeah, you know, everything in it is pretty intentional. The only thing that we can't guarantee is if people will like it. We told a story that we thought was funny, that we thought was meaningful, and we put our hearts into it. And really, at the end of the day, that's all you could do is basically just try your best and be honest with yourself and be true to yourself. And if people dig it, that's cool. So yeah, there's a lot of words in Punk Taco, and that's because those are the kind of comic books that I grew up reading. And when McConaughey was little, those were the books that I was reading to him and with him. I mean, he read stuff, like I said, like the Mo Willems books and Dogman books and all that stuff on his own. Before he could read, and as he was developing into a reader, I would read like, you know, the original Fantastic Four graphic novels, and these really wordy Stan Lee books, and Roy Thomas comics, and Elf Quest, and all these other types of books. So those are all very, very wordy comics, and that's just kind of like how the mentality we were in and what he was into. And we also did it somewhat intentionally because we wanted it to be a book that kids can read and enjoy. But if they can't read on their own and they're reading with an older reader, a parent or guardian, they're going to enjoy it. And then hopefully the kid will learn to read, in the same way that I did. Pick up the book, reread it, learn a new word, figure out what that word means if they don't know it, and so forth and so on. So it was created in a way to encourage reading and curiosity, and to learn. And then, of course, like I said, we put our hearts into it. There's all different kinds of messages involved. Some of them are right there on the surface, and some of them are a little hidden, but not so much if you're, an awoken person. So, but we don't shy away from that, because that's kind of my background as just a human being in general. I've always, been socially conscious and aware of, the world around me, and, concern for fellow citizens and everything. So all of that definitely, seeps into my work, whether it's art or writing or music, anything that I do.
Do you feel as an editor that those are lessons that you impart upon the creators you work with?
Absolutely. Yeah. I always try to give the creators, if they're starting out with a fresh project, the creative freedom to express themselves, be who they are. I want them to be as honest as possible with their stories. I try not to be too involved as far as telling them what to do. Like, I let them bounce ideas off of me if they want to. If there was something that was inappropriate, of course, I have to kind of like steer them away from certain things for the Paper Cuts brand. But I just try to be encouraging and helpful, and coming at it from being a creator myself. I want to help provide opportunity for other creators, but and then give them some of my experience, and hopefully if I have anything to offer them, I can, and we can learn from each other as well. But I've been doing this a long time and feel like I know how to make a pretty good book, and I try to share that knowledge with anyone that'll listen.
How hard is it to keep Trevor Mueller and Bill Wacko in line?
Both of them are awesome, and I don't just say that. Like Trevor, pardon me. I met Trevor at conventions before I was an editor, and he was just a really great person. And I knew when I got to Paper Cuts, he was somebody that I wanted to see if I can provide an opportunity for him, and help him get his foot in this door to branch out and do other things other than his own self-published stuff. And he's a great writer, and I love working with him. Super easy. If anything, he has to keep on me because he works so fast. And he's yeah, I can't say enough nice things about Trevor. And Bill's also awesome. Both of them, as you know, are working on several projects for me. I like to build relationships as an editor. So in some ways, it's probably revealing too much, but it makes my job easier, right? Sure. If I know that like I can trust this person, and they, I can always count on them to deliver and be professional, that just makes my job so much easier. Right? Like, I don't want to deal with any headaches. The second like a creative person gives me a problem, I'm like, sorry, I can't, work like that. I have too many deadlines and too many things going on to deal with people with headaches. So I've never had to worry about Trevor or Bill, luckily, but yeah, they're awesome.
Keep them in line.
Yeah.
So, what can you tell us about some of the projects that you're working on right now?
Uh, I could. What can I tell you now? I don't know if we have any secrets really. I'm working on um, a new Bat Pat book with Bill and Trevor. Bat Pat is an all ages graphic novel series. It's based on a show out of Italy. It's kind of like part Scooby Doo, but instead of the um, the bad guys or criminals, being real criminals, all the mysteries that they end up solving and are kind of like misunderstandings. So if it's like a witch, causing chaos in a town, it's not because she's evil. She's just having a hard time flying her broom, right? She's there's a lot of misunderstandings, and it's a great book for really young readers, but also anyone that just loves a good kind of a feel good story. Bill's drawing that. Trevor wrote 3 volumes of that, and we're working on the second. We're finishing up the second one now, and then we're going to get working on the third. I work on a lot of Smurfs books. I've been editing a series called Smurfs Archives. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah.
It looks like this. It publishes all the Smurfs books in chronological order for the first time, in
cool.
English at least.
Right.
They've always been reprinted in like various formats, and like the stories are all over the place. But this actually starts with the very first Smurf story and goes right as far as we can take it throughout the history of Smurfs. So right now we're working on our 5th volume.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but some of those Smurfs volumes include the never before reprinted Marvel stuff, right?
Yeah, our book 4, which will come out soon. It's the first time it's published in like 30 years. So I had to, with help of the super awesome Smurfologist Matt Murray, we tracked down the original like film that Marvel had of the stories that they published, and with Matt's help, we helped brought that to life. So I couldn't do that book without him. He's really great and knows everything about Smurfs, which I'm still learning. I learn as I go.
That's funny you mentioned that, because I was going to ask, as an editor on these books, did you have to educate? How did you have to educate yourself on Bat Pat, like Trevor and Bill did, to kind of make sure that you're following the voice, that they're following the voice, and you're following the established.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a fairly new property, and the animated series are made up of all shorts. So like I watched all those and familiarized myself as much as possible. I still rely on Trevor to work his magic and bring it all to life. But and then we obviously deal with the licensor as well, so we have to get approval for everything, and they make sure that we stay on some not. Luckily, this project doesn't really have to be on model. Like Bill's not trying to copy the style of the animated series, which I thought was important. I wanted him to draw in his style, but they just make sure that we're making it look good. And then with Smurfs, I definitely had to. I was familiar with the Smurfs as a kid, but I didn't know all of the lore. I certainly don't know all of the publishing history in regard to dates. So that's been like a nonstop detective process for me, trying to learn all of that stuff and learn who was working on Smurfs behind the scenes other than Peo, and whether it was his wife or his friends, or all the other collaborators that don't often get the acknowledgement that they should. So that's been a real learning process, and every book is a new journey into learning, because we discover stuff that hasn't been published in the US in English at all, and we're finding all this other material from Belgium, and we have to put it together and put it in order, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So, which I'll be working on tonight actually. I'm working on a new
you're
Flash
gonna
Gordon adventure
you're gonna
story.
Smurf it tonight.
It's gonna be a smurfing night, yeah. But yeah, I'm working on those. New Flash Gordon. I have the Three Thieves series, which is a really great
Yeah,
book by Scott
I,
Chandler.
yeah. I talked to him.
Yeah, he's awesome. I really love his work, and these were published previously, and I had a few goals when I came to Paper Cuts. One was to bring Scott to the company. One was to bring Hero Bear to the company.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, Hero Bear was without a
Mike
home for a
Kunkel.
while.
Yeah, and then I have a few other secret projects that I'm working on that I definitely can't talk about. But yeah, Hero Bear is another one. Actually, we're hopefully sending the second volume to the printer tomorrow. Hopefully,
Exciting.
but this has been a real joy to work on, and we're doing once we well actually book 2 is a lot of new material. Book 3 will be all new material, so we're going to publish a few new volumes of Hero Bear, which I'm really excited about. And the Three Thieves has 7 volumes, which is really awesome. Have you ever read this one? Either of you?
I
This
did, yes.
I'm familiar
Yeah.
with.
I used to long before I started working at Paper Cuts. I started reading this to McConaughey when he was about 5 or 6, and then my wife read it, and I mean we read these books dozens of times. Like he loved these books, and we used to buy them as Christmas gifts and birthday gifts for friends and kids and everything. And at the time, Game of Thrones was really big, and I would always tell people this is like Game of Thrones for kids, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't. It's just like that epic of an adventure, and a
The
lot of
safe for
intrigue.
home version.
Yeah, right. No, no bloodiness or sexual stuff, but perfectly safe for kids. So yeah, there's a lot of
Something to
projects
say.
going on at Paper Cuts. It's nonstop. So we're a growing company. We have a lot of different imprints from Mad Cave proper to Maverick to Nakama, which is our manga imprint. Maverick, which is our teen and young adult audience readers. So yeah, there's lots of projects coming and going.
So what is it about Mad Cave, as a whole and Paper Cuts that really, you know, I don't know, works for you, or works for you, or appeals to you?
It's family owned. Mad Cave. It's not like some big corporation. They're really focused on making great creator-owned comics
Mhm.
and doing right by creators, and that was important for me to jump ship because I like being a teacher. I love there are definitely difficult days as a teacher, but that's what I was doing before I came to Paper Cuts, and it was a real hard decision for me to go from teaching back into comics full time because I was surrounded by like endless inspiration of young people. I was able to help them, and whether the kids liked art or they were or not, I was able to bring some art and joy into their lives and encourage the kids who really did love it. So for me to go to Mad Cave and to start working at Paper Cuts, one of the things that was important was that we were going to treat creators fairly, and I was going to be able to help, give good people opportunities to bring their ideas to life. I didn't want to be mixed up with a company that was shady in any way. I didn't want to be mixed up with bad contracts. I certainly didn't want to join a company that would be out of business in a couple of years or get caught up in any type of, controversy regarding, not treating people well or, comic gate type stuff, I guess,
Yeah.
any type of negativity in whatsoever. So it was important that the company was, just run by good people and kind of got to know everyone. I already knew Mike Martz, and he showed me that it was a great company to work for, and I kind of rolled the dice and made the leap. And I had to discuss it with my family, see if it was the right choice. And so far, it's been great. There are days when I miss teaching. I miss sharing information with kids and helping guide them as artists. But I get to do that with adults now because so it's a little different. Sometimes the adults give me headaches like the kids do, but I like being an editor at Paper Cuts and helping creators make books that kids will enjoy, and that it'll help inspire like the next generation of readers and generation of artists, people that get inspired to draw through our books or just love reading or want to become writers. We have a great collection of creators, and I think, they do that. I see kids pick up the books and, they're loving them and reading them. And so that side of me that still loves to teach and loves to, inspire kids and do something positive, it still gets, I guess it's still there. So
How does being a comic book creator influence your musical interests?
uh I guess they influence each other. I mean, like I said, I've always been in comics. When I about middle school, I started getting into, it's when you kind of start buying your own music,
Yeah,
right around that age. And
that identity starts to emerge.
right. And so I grew up in a pretty racially mixed neighborhood. I grew up in a time when hip hop was really coming alive and spreading. And so I gravitated towards the poetry of that as a writer. I got into like graffiti art first, and then from there started writing songs and DJing and producing music. For those that don't know, I also MC. I go by the name Illus, Illus. And in middle school, I started writing songs with friends, and by high school, I had started like a little independent record label and put out my own tapes and got them in stores. I didn't incorporate my love for comics necessarily into my lyrics until a little bit later. I think because I was always trying to prove myself as like a serious, MC, and I was very influenced by like artists like KRS-One and Chuck D, Public Enemy. So everything was, somewhat political and talking about stuff like that. So I didn't really, I didn't really think about it. Like my comic life was kind of separate from the hip hop life, other than the fact that, like, to me, the hip hop artists that I admired were like superheroes, and like I saw that parallel, like, like the X-Men, like they're underground people. The majority of mass media hated them, right? They're hunted, they're looked at as like the enemy when they're really trying to help people. And to me, it was like the same thing with hip hop, especially early on. If if you're from the 80s, then that the music wasn't in all the stores and it wasn't played on the radio, and people called it crap, and said it will never last. And so to me there was definitely that they were very similar in that regard. And then of course the artists had secret code names, and we all had our own names that we gave ourselves, just like superheroes. And we acted differently on stage rather than in public, right? You weren't the same person everywhere you went, so you did have a secret identity. And so there were those similarities. But it wasn't until years later, after I took time off from recording, I came back and started making more, I guess, family friendly hip hop. Not cursing and trying to make more positive music. Then I started incorporating more of the comic elements, taking on the persona of mass superheroes and writing from their perspective, and writing songs about comics. And so now there's a lot more influence, and I use my love for comics in my lyrics. And then the same thing with the books that I create. There's always something, even Punk Taco, there's like conscious ideas in it, and what people would call woke ideas, I guess. Or I don't consider that a negative word.
No.
Just for those
Interview
out
is
there.
over.
What's that?
So this interview is over.
This interview is over. That's right. That's right. Don't buy his books. Boycott Paper Cuts. No, yeah, but yeah, I mean everything, musically, comics, art, parenting, all of that is just one thing to me. Like now, like
Mhm.
um, I don't feel like there's really any blurred lines. Whereas when I was a kid, my rapping and hip hop persona was very different than when I'd go into work. My Marvel persona when I was in the offices working, like you stayed professional and it was separate. Um, Now, like people who know me, if they know, they know I rap or I make comics. It's I'm the same person basically, just a little louder on stage.
It's great that you still find time for that.
Yeah, it's hard. It's
Seeing, I should say.
I actually haven't released an album since I guess it's been 2015 or
Oh man.
something like that, or maybe it's 2018. I can't remember any. I think I did a remix album in 2018, but the original material was 2015. And then I hadn't been on stage in 20 years until like a month ago.
Really?
Yeah, and then
What,
I
what was
just
that
my
like?
friend has my good friend that I grew up with in childhood has an amazing band called Pangea World Beat. They're amazing, like a Afrobeat Latin influenced band, and they're just incredible, like super musicians. And they asked me to perform with them, and I had to spend like 2 months trying to remember all my lyrics for my songs. And then I hopped back on stage with them, and it was a lot of fun. So we've done 2 shows since then. Or we've done 2 shows. But yeah, it was like 20 something years in between, and you know, going back to when telling my story about my journey in comics and from and everything. I always tell kids you're never too young, but I also tell the older audiences that you're never too old, right? Like
Right.
life isn't like a straight line all the time. It's like this, and then back, and then down, and then up. So you just try to enjoy it. And for me, I try to be creative all the time and have fun, whether it's music, art, comics, editing. So
So is bringing the punk taco to paper cuts, is it just the having the punk taco adventures, or do you have issues with your editor?
no, my editor is pretty hands off. He's very helpful. I do my part as an editor to make sure that he doesn't have to do too much. Um, yeah, I brought Punk Taco. I wasn't sure it was going to end up at Paper Cuts. To be honest, it was like a year and a half. I was at Paper Cuts, almost 2 years before we, I think, made it official. Um, and it was something that it was an idea, certainly when I joined the company, but it wasn't guaranteed. I had to go through
Mhm.
the whole review process and you know had the bosses with the pocket with the wallets approve it. And when they did, I was happy. I'm hoping that it will help our reach, bring it to audiences that we couldn't get it into libraries that we couldn't get it into ourselves. That's really important. Get into more classrooms because I wrote a whole lesson plan for the first book, a 4-chapter lesson plan based on each story in the book. So I'm really excited for teachers to get that. It's going to be free. They can use it along with the book. The various, there's one for each story, like I said, and they can use it however they want. They could use them individually, or they can use them all together. Um, so I'm excited for that. I'm excited to hopefully reach more libraries so we can, kids can read the book freely and enjoy it. And Paper Cuts has a great marketing team. We have really awesome people that work for the company that know what they're doing. And to be honest, it's nice to just be creative and not have to do all the heavy lifting myself.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know, I've been independent for, like 30 years making comics, so I'm not going to stop marketing myself or promoting or doing, any of that independent stuff. But the heavy lifting, like we have such an amazing team of brilliant marketing people. So I'm excited to work with them and get Punk Taco out to more readers and hopefully they enjoy it.
I know with like the Flash Gordon, you have other creators come on and do their stories. Could you would you like to see something like that with Punk Taco, or is this something that you want to keep
Yeah, I
close
don't know.
to?
That's a tough one. I don't know yet. For right now, I feel like it's very very family oriented. You know, my family.
Mhm.
Um, Punk Taco Adventures, story wise, art wise, Punk Taco Adventures, we actually have a brand new story, and it is by all other artists. Um, so we have a great lineup actually. McCunn and I and Kayla wrote a story about Punk Taco going to a museum, and it starts off with, the first page is drawn in traditional Punk Taco style, um, and then after that, the next 20 some odd pages, every page is drawn by a different person,
Oh,
because
cool.
it's telling the story is Punk Taco and Bash, and they're looking at modern contemporary art in a museum. And Bash says something along the lines of, I don't get it, which is many of us have said similar things, I'm sure, to different art styles. And from there, Punk Taco starts to educate his friend on that not all art is for everybody, right? Like we all have the things that we like. We
Hmm.
have things that don't really move us. It's more important to focus on the things we do like, but we should learn how to understand and appreciate things that we don't even enjoy necessarily. Um, so like, you turn the page and the first artist to contribute is actually Franco, and he does like a Punk Taco in like a Picasso style.
Oh,
I'm
cool.
hearing good things about him.
Yeah,
Yes.
I've heard a couple things,
Yeah,
little bits here and
he's on
there.
the come up. Yeah, he's a guy. um, and then we have Scott Chandler, who does Three Thieves, did one. Mike Cavallaro, who does a book called Nico Bravo, amazing artist. I got my friend Chuck D from Public Enemy to do a Punk Taco illustration.
That's amazing.
Um, yeah, that was really exciting.
Congratulations.
What's that?
I said congratulations. That's
Thanks.
amazing.
Yeah, that was really fun because Chuck is an amazing artist. He's a huge influence on me in many ways, not just music, but just as a human being. And he's actually released like 3 or 4, maybe more art books now. Like he's a really amazing artist. So I reached out and asked him if he'd be interested, and he was down. So super excited about that. We've got other like another friend, DJ JS1, who's a famous graffiti artist and DJ. He contributed a piece, and um, yeah, Dawn Griffin. Who else? Art Baltazar, another guy
Oh,
who's on the
love
come
art.
up. You may not have heard of him yet, but I think he's going to do great things. Um,
Just tiny
Art
things.
Baltazar.
tiny things, yeah, tiny great things. Uh, yeah, who else? My kids did pieces, and the thing that I'm most excited about, other than like working with Mike Cavallaro and Scott Chandler and Chuck D and all these people, I was able to take this opportunity to um, have former art students contribute pieces as well. So I have kids who are students who are in the 5th grade, students who are in the 6th grade, uh, have their work right alongside artists like Chuck D and Scott Chandler, and so they're actually officially published professionals. And to me that was important to include my former students and give them those opportunities to see their work in an actual book and published. I've actually started doing it with Flash Gordon Adventures. We have like a fan art section in the back, so we're always or I'm always encouraging kids to send in artwork to Paper Cuts so we can publish their work. But this is an actual like original story that they contributed to, so
Oh,
it's not just
sweet.
it's not just fan art. It's like they're part of the story. So I'm really excited about that, and then getting the book and then sharing it with them so they could see their work. Because I remember like McConaughey's first time seeing his work in a book, and like the way their faces light up. So being able to provide that opportunity for more young kids is exciting to me.
Yeah, it should be. I mean, that's very humbling.
Yeah, it's a really fun story. I can't wait for people to read it. So yeah, to answer your question, I'm not opposed to the idea of people drawing Punk Taco. I'm not sure if I'm ready to hand over the reins writing. I want to
Mhm.
get all the stories, between myself and the kids, kind of like establish that before other people come in and start playing around. Um, as far as the writing goes.
I could really see it as an animated show too.
Yeah,
Oh,
most
that would
definitely.
be cool. I am not opposed to that. If the deal was right and the there was some way to be creatively involved in it, I would totally be down for it. I would worry, about someone else taking it, and not because I'm a control freak, but because I just think sometimes
Well, it's
Hollywood people
something that
don't.
you it's something that you've worked on. It's you
Yeah,
know
it's got your heart and soul in it.
It is. It's very personal. So handing it over to just any writer, in Hollywood or wherever, I'd be very careful about that because I don't necessarily always think that they're better writers than the rest of us. And I don't say that to be mean to anybody because there are some amazing writers out there, but um, you know,
when you're writing, who do you have a voice that you hear Punk Taco speaking in, and who possibly
I don't
could have?
actually. People have asked me that before, and I don't. I haven't really settled on a voice. Um, yeah, I'm pretty open to that. I haven't found the right one, or nothing has stuck with me yet. I kind of make up my own voices sometimes, or the kids will make up their own voices. So that's kind of what I hear. I'm not saying that that's correct. Like I don't think Punk Taco should sound like me, but when we're playing around and coming up with ideas, um, that's kind of like what we do. But yeah, I haven't figured out a good actor yet, and I've tried to think about it, but I guess I haven't thought about it enough to seriously come up with someone. You have any ideas for me?
Ben
Uh,
Affleck,
Ben Affleck, Chris Pratt,
Chris
Chris Pratt.
Pratt. Yeah, Parks and Rec era Chris Pratt though.
I
yeah,
feel like it would have to be someone amazing, like like one of the I forget all the actors' names, but they're brilliant. Like someone that does The Simpsons, right? It's like one actor can do like 10 voices, right? Like it, I don't see it
Billy
being
West.
like I don't see it being like a Hollywood person. It would have to be like
No,
someone that does voice acting, like really knows voices. Um, so yeah, I'd want it to be someone that really likes being a voice actor. Um, and then as
no,
far as like the
no.
right, like there's
Maurice LaMarche.
we live in a I think our kids take it for granted, but to me it feels like a golden age of animation, and there's been so many great animated series in the last 10 years or so. Um, I would want it to be on that level, whether it's like um, my kids love Gravity Falls, they got me into that. Um,
Brilliant
I'm
show.
I'm a big fan of like Troll Hunters, and there you go. Um, the Troll Hunter series, and what else? There's been a bunch of them that I've really, really enjoyed. So, yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate it. If somebody out there likes Punk Taco, and call me up.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, Adam, we sure appreciate your time tonight.
No, my pleasure.
Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts about the ongoing or the mystique of excuse me, the mystique of Punk Taco and how or why it's been successful to part us with? I mean, what resonates?
I don't know if success it's been successful in that I still get to make it, which is great. I
Oh
think
yeah,
there's millions of kids out there that have not read it, that have never heard of it. Even my own local bookstore doesn't carry it, right? They yet. So I'm hoping to change that. So I think we have a long way to go until I think there's a lot of things that I hope to achieve with the book. I think I really enjoy it. Obviously, I'm personally attached to it. I love making it with my kids. I hope that love and passion and heart translates, and I hope the readers pick up on that. And I just want to keep pushing it forward and taking it as far as we possibly can, to as many readers as possible, and hopefully inspiring other young people as well as older people to write their own stories and create their own books. That's the ultimate mission of Punk Taco, is to inspire creativity in other people. So we want to keep doing that, and we want to keep having fun making it. So we have the new book. It comes out in January. For anyone out there watching the show, you can pre-order it from Paper Cuts directly, or you can go to any, internet bookstore or local bookstore. It's available everywhere. So hopefully, please pre-order it. That makes a big difference for any book that you like. For those that don't know, pre-ordering is a great way for publishers to kind of gauge if something is going to work and if they're going to invest time and money into it. So yeah, if there's something that you like, whether it's Punk Taco or Three Thieves or any of our other books, please check them out, support them. Flash Gordon Adventures, any of those things. Yeah, I really appreciate your time and letting me babble.
Appreciate yours, and
sorry for anyone that's like, what's this guy talking about?
Nah.
Always fun to talk with you, Adam.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, we appreciate your passion for the game. And keep bringing it, man.
It's what I get. It's all I got, right? I love it.
There you go. All right. Well, next week, Chad, I believe we're talking to Mark Russell. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're going to be talking some Thanksgiving.
Very cool.
What timing? What spectacular timing?
I know, it's like I almost planned that.
I want to know if we're going to get to do the Schenectady convention again. That was fun.
I think there are plans to have it again, so I'll let you know as things unfold. And yeah, it was a great time. I'm glad you had a great time and sold out of all your books.
Yeah, maybe we can get more Paper Cuts help out there and get some more creators for you and see if we could do some type of sponsorship or something.
Oh, I'm sure they'd really enjoy that.
Cool. Yeah, we'll talk.
Yep.
All right. Well, until next time.
Adam has to get smurfing.
Have a smurfing night.
Support local art, support local music, support your local comic book store, folks. Just get out there and do something good for your fellow man. And we need that right now. We need that more than ever, I think.
Absolutely.
And just get out there and don't be a dick. Be a Punk Taco.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.